going on, guys? It's Justin. Welcome back to Tea with the Vivi. Actually, kind of hot outside, so I got water. But water with the Vivi just doesn't sound as cool, so we keep the name the same.
I like
um, but I am here with two awesome people who I do know personally, both from real estate. One actually helped him and his wife to buy a home, and the other one I'm friends with it is a realtor. So yeah, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves and I'll explain a little bit how this is gonna go, and then we can get started. So Phil, you're at the top of our two-person rectangle. So if you want to get us started, and then Jeff, we can go to you. Just your name, what you do, or kind of what's going on in your life, whether work-wise, school-wise, wherever you guys are at. Just so people kind of have an idea, and so you guys have an idea of each other, of where you're kind of at in life, and the listeners have an idea, and then we can get started.
but
All right. I guess I'm starting off. You said.
Yep.
All right. There we go. My name is Phil. I'm originally from New York, Long Island, New York, but I lived in Orlando for a while. That's where I met Justin. I was doing real estate there. That's kind of how I met Justin through. He was selling for KB Homes, or I don't know if I'm allowed to say the
Yep.
business on here.
Yeah, it's okay.
But
That's where I was.
He was selling homes, and we worked on a couple of deals together, and then just was living in Orlando. Kind of just going through day by day, and then I decided I wanted to finish my film degree, so I moved up to Washington D.C. And I started my program in documentary film here in D.C. And that's what I've been doing up here. I've been kind of working at the university, teaching film classes, film production classes. And yeah, so it was a good first year so far that I've lived up here for a year. About 2 weeks ago, it will be a year.
Happy anniversary.
Oh, thanks, man.
No problem.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. And for people that don't know, which would be anybody listening to this wouldn't know this, but I remember when I very first started doing the coaching, which was a little over 2 years ago. And I remember we had done like a free session, and I think Jeff, we did that with you too. And which is one of the reasons brought you guys back. You were some of the originals. And Phil, I remember you telling me like, hey, I'm doing real estate, but I'm not happy. What I really want to be doing is film. I really want to go to film school. And I remember us talking about it, and you kind of like, or us kind of making a timeline of like, okay, well, when are you going to get up there by? Okay, well, what about if you had a goal that by this day of this month of this year, you were up there? And so, to actually see you up there now executing on what we talked about 2 years ago, you have been for a while, obviously. That's really cool to see. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but it's cool to see things that like were an idea and now they're real,
Yeah, I totally remember that conversation.
Yeah. Awesome.
I didn't think it was possible, but now,
Yeah, right. There you are. Awesome. All right, Jeffrey, second but not least. Give us a little introduction.
A little introduction. So, yeah, I met Justin. Honestly, as soon as I got out of the military, honestly, kind of living at my parents for a while, maybe about 3 or 4 months, and I was in the market trying to get a home. Honestly, yeah, during that time, I bought a home, and honestly, it's what I think it was KB. Yes, KB.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But it's in the next neighborhood over.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been a while, honestly. Since then, I've gotten a bachelor's degree in emergency and crisis management, and now I just got my offer letter last week from Secret Service. So
really?
Yeah,
man, that's awesome. So again, for people that don't know, which would be everybody, I don't know why I'm saying that, but it makes sense for me to say it like that. Jeff and I had a conversation about 2 years ago, and Jeff, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I remember you saying that that's what you wanted to do. You were like, really, man, I want to be doing Secret Service. And we talked about like, okay, well, why aren't you doing that? Or what would really be the path to do that? And then what would be the timeline of that and what would be the next step to do that so that you would be going towards that, what would stand in between you and being that now. And it sounds like you also did that. And so actually this is very cool because I talked with you guys, in the very beginning, and both of you guys went out and executed what you wanted and are doing it now. So it's actually going to be a fun conversation, and I'm happy for you guys. I'm proud of you guys. It's an amazing feeling when you're doing what you want, and even when it's a struggle, it's still worth it when you're going in the direction that you want to go. So
Yeah.
so let's see. So it's 5:10. I would say maybe we could plan to have about like 20 minutes a person approximately, and we can either do it all one person, all next person, or if we end up kind of hopping back and forth, that's okay too. But we've got, until 6 or a little before 6 or whatever. If we're really on a roll and we want to go till 6, that's okay. If we got what we need to get out of it and we're done sooner, that's okay too. But time usually goes pretty quick actually. So Phil, so talk to us. So and I'll just explain real quick for people kind of what to expect with this. So they're going to be asking me questions of where they're getting stuck. Could be related to performance, happiness, fulfillment, could be more on the career side, could be more on the personal side. There's certain reasons that we get stuck as human beings, and a lot of those reasons are very similar on the business and personal side. So a lot of times by fixing certain things, it's helping with both. The way that I say that I help people is I help them to figure out, okay, well, how is it they want things to be going and to move towards that, right? There's a definition from Earl Nightingale. His definition of success, which I've been sharing on each one of these, is that success is the pursuit of a worthy ideal, meaning that if you know what you want and you're moving towards it, you're successful. And that sounds really simple, but it's not so easy to do, right? It's not so easy to know what you want. There's a lot of reasons why that's difficult. And it's not so easy to move towards it. And by his estimation, he's a famous personal development guy. He's passed away now. But I think he estimated maybe like 5%. So 1 in 20 people are actually executing that, meaning knowing what they want and moving towards it. So any questions about figuring out what that is, why you're not moving towards that faster, why you're stuck where you're at, those are all good possible questions. But if you guys want to ask me something that is not that, I can do my best and maybe I'll still be able to help. So Phil, why don't you start us off? And if we're going deep into something specific, we can keep going, or we can kind of hop back and forth depending on however you guys want to do it and whatever the flow of the conversation is that's best for you guys. So
It's a mixture of maybe anxiety and
okay. No, those are
It's
good
just me.
questions. Those are good questions.
So I just like, I mean, there's just so many areas of I would say in my field to go into, and I kind of want to do them all. I want to do everything, and I was just like, which is not, it's not feasible, it's not possible to do them all. Maybe it is, and I guess I don't know what the next steps are in my life, and I'm just like, I just start, but the thing is, I just got here, I just started this program, and I shouldn't be looking that further down, that far down the road yet. Where I'm just like, what's the next step? I think I just need to relish or enjoy the moment of where I am and learn where I am.
Yeah.
And I think part of me is always, what's the next step that I have to take so I can plan for it
Yeah.
when I have this, when I really shouldn't be thinking that way or thinking that hard about it, where it kind of just like takes up a lot of my mental energy and where I focus on it completely.
How long is I know you said you're in school right now with your program and you're teaching. How much longer is your program, or like when do you need to decide a next step? Like when is there a situation on the horizon that's like, okay, now I actually need to know?
I have about 2 more years, so
Okay. So a lot of time.
and yeah, so I have about 2 more years, and I think more for me is like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I have a plan B. If this doesn't work out, I have a plan C. But what's the plan A?
So plan
Plan
B
A.
or plan C meaning something that's not film, but plan A meaning something in film, but you don't know what? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, plan A is just like something in film. Either it's going to be either it's whatever it is. Either it's going to be document. Say in a perfect world, it's going to either be documentary or fiction or teaching or making films or going overseas. It's either going to be one of those things. So it's just like what I need one of those things to work out. So which one of those things are going to work out first in my life? And if they work out first, then I want to go down that way. But if one of those things don't work out, then maybe I can fall back on teaching. Maybe I can fall back on this. Maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think I've got a number of thoughts. That's a good question. I've got like a couple questions in my head at the same time. I guess maybe the best first question to ask, or maybe the most helpful first question to ask is, if you could be making $1 million a year doing any one of those types of film, which one would you do? Like the money was going to be the same. You were guaranteed to crush it. You're guaranteed to be successful. Wasn't a matter of if you had the skills or the connections or whatever. Assume you had the skills, assume you had the connections, assume the money's going to be made guaranteed, no matter which one you choose. Which one would you choose, assuming all that stuff is the same and all of it is good?
mm. I think in general, I think I just would want to be my own boss in a way, where I just
Okay.
don't have to answer to anyone. I just completely
So doing what? Let's say you're your own boss, you're doing film, you're making 7 figures guaranteed, you're a badass at it. You know, what would you be doing?
I
What
probably would just be like making independent documentary films
Okay.
that have like a social impact to them that
Okay.
will inspire people and
Okay.
that I can share that I can also like travel around the world with.
Okay. Do you have a notebook or something to write with?
Yeah.
Okay. I want both you guys to grab something to write with, because really the purpose of this, I mean, it's of course it's nice for us to see each other and talk, but I really want you guys to be able to leave here like, okay, Justin just gave me something specific that I can go use right now that just made my life better, like that just helped. That's really, really what I want to make sure that we get out of today. And I want to be able to give you guys stuff that's specific enough that you're like, okay, I get what this means and I can go do it. So I think this will be helpful to write some things down. Jeff, for you also, if you don't want to write down Phil's stuff, that's okay. Although you might have certain insights from stuff Phil is saying or stuff that I say to him. But then when it's your turn, that would probably be good. Looks like Phil is looking for a piece of paper here. Found
Yeah,
something?
no problem. I'm getting ready for work as we speak, so
Okay,
I'm
no
listening.
worries. No worries, no worries. All right, so Phil, you got something?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said, so write down you'd be working for yourself. It sounds like that's a big one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so working for yourself,
Or
entrepreneur,
like being like an artist where I don't really have to.
like you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
You don't have a boss.
Yeah.
Okay. You'd be traveling. So we know that. You would be making documentaries, you said.
Uh-huh.
Sorry about the motorcycle in the background. You'd be making documentaries that you said touch the world and make people's lives better. So that's good. Do you notice anything about that? I know that's a super vague question. I'll just answer it because that's like an impossible question to answer. So those things are really good. The problem is it's way, 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 way too vague, right? So we're getting closer, right? So, and I want to explain what we're doing because you guys can do this on your own too when I'm not there. The first way that I ask you that question is to isolate out all the variables, right? Because one of the reasons, and this is good for people listening too, one of the reasons it's hard for you to know what your option A is because you're thinking of all these options and not only which one do you want, but you're thinking, oh, which one am I good at? And which one am I going to make money at? And which one am I going to have the connections at? And which one am I most likely to do a good job at versus not do a good job? And which is more competitive? And it's like, there's all these things that make it hard to know the answer to that, right? So the first thing we want to do is isolate out all the variables, meaning if we knew you're going to make money, we knew you were going to be good at it, we knew everything was going to work out, we knew it was going to be okay, and we just wanted to know what it would be. Now we've got documentaries, so that's good. You see how we kind of isolate things? So now we've got the documentaries. The problem is that's still pretty vague, right? So your mind doesn't really know what that means. Like when we talked about where you could be in film school. Sorry about that. Helicopter passing. I'll be gone in 1 second. When we talked about the idea of you going to film school, we really wanted to pick like, okay, where in the country did you want to be? And we wanted to pick like what school and by what day. And so we had something like either Atlanta or Washington by, you know, October 25th, like we had it very specific, and your mind got what that meant and it locked in and it could do something about it. So the fact that you want to do documentaries, we just made a little progress, but it's still so vague that whenever stuff isn't super specific, our mind kind of stalls out and we don't do anything. So it's not a matter of if our mind has the ability to take us places, but we have to code it the right way. So what would you want to be making documentaries about?
Well, my concentration is on like social justice films.
Okay, so write that down. So social justice films about what? Because social justice could still be a lot of different things, right? I want it to be, so I think I told you guys this before, I don't remember. There's a great quote by Einstein, and to paraphrase it, he says that your goals need to be so clear that you could explain it to a child, and that child could explain it to another child, and that other child would know what you meant and be able to draw a picture of it. So basically, almost nobody has clarity like that, but that's what we want. So social justice is good. So what specifically? What within social justice really excites you of like, man, I really want to be doing films about this?
I'm just writing stuff down. Like,
Oh yeah, that's okay.
like when I say social justice, like I mean like environmental justice too. Like
Okay.
that's kind of like I've been my first year here. I've been working on like environmental justice films. Also, and I thought I would never do that, but like that's just a thing too, and I've taken that up. So like
Environmental stuff.
so environmental justice, social justice, and it doesn't just have to be documentary. It could also be fiction. You know, stories that have meaning, stories that people aren't aware of, stories that people should know about, stories that
You could even crossbreed them. Could you do something that's like a documentary with an element of fiction? Like I don't know
yeah,
if you could do.
it's possible. It's
So
possible.
okay, so why are you passionate about social justice?
Because I think these marginalized communities don't have a voice,
Okay.
or so.
What do you wish they had a voice about? What do you feel like people need to listen to these communities about that they're not listening?
I um, there's like different issues out
Like
there.
what?
It's just, like for instance, environmental justice. Like
Okay.
think about
If
like Flint, Michigan, and
let's say if you could start with one, if you were gonna go and make a film right now that you were like, this is the thing that's on my freaking mind that I'm really passionate about. People are not freaking listening. They need to listen. I'm gonna help to make them listen. This is gonna be my first project. What would you want to do it
well, I have different projects in my head, so I think they usually come to me all the time.
if it's too personal, you don't have to say it on here, but I want you to have something specific that you can write down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if I don't understand, your brain doesn't understand. And I don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what do you think is the biggest social justice problem in the world that you see that really pisses you off? They're like, man, I'm tired of this shit. Like, you know, people just really don't get this part about social justice. And this is the one that makes me the most angry of all, or the most mad of all, that people are really not listening to this. And that's a problem. that there's the most emotion behind?
I just think what makes me upset is that when people take other people's stories for granted and
Okay.
they don't value their experiences.
Okay.
Um, and
Like
they
what?
think that their struggles don't exist.
Okay.
Yes.
I like that. So like what?
Um, let's talk about like food security or the housing security and how as you know the cost of living is going up and it's hard for people to pay rent
Mm-hmm.
and raise a family. Minimum wage. It's just like the
Mm-hmm.
little wage of it's like the American dream is like slowly not becoming a dream anymore for most people.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. So let's say that you were gonna write a goal and we were gonna pick a day that you would complete a documentary film. We want it to be something that excites you that you would actually go do it, right? Because basically what you're telling me is that plan A would be film, and within film, documentary, maybe even some element of fiction too. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out if we were going to set a goal right now of a certain day that you could have a documentary film done by, which is obviously not tomorrow, right? But I'm trying to figure out what you would really want to do it on. Like what category really pumps you up that you're like, man, this call with Justin went great. Like I'm going to go out and start this project and I'm fucking excited about it. I want to know like what that topic is for you. That you could sit here and talk to Jeff and I for like hours about how fucked up that situation is, that social justice situation. And you have all these awesome ideas of, you know, what you want to put in that film. And there's so much that needs to go in there that you're passionate about that you want to share. Because
I
if
don't know.
it's
That's
something you're not that passionate about now, you're not going to go make a giant fucking documentary, right? It's got to be something that you're like, you have a little pep in your step. Like, man, this really excites me, right?
yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of out there, and there's a lot of research that has to be done.
Don't worry
So
about the research.
okay.
What are you pretends that like the research doesn't matter. Pretend that the only thing that mattered was your passion and your interest and the messages that you feel like the world's not listening to that you want to help them to listen to, which is sounds like is what you want to do. You're saying there's certain social justice issues, people aren't listening the way they need to, and you can help share and expose certain things to help people understand. So what is I mean, I'm sure you're passionate about lots of topics. Um, but if you had to go start making a movie about one right now, maybe the one you're most right, you might make documentaries about lots of social justice topics. But if
Mm-hmm.
you were gonna choose one right now that you'd be like, man, I would love to start a project like this right now. Um, you know, what topic is the most hot on your mind that you could actually set a written goal to go do that excites you the most?
I think like I've always been taught to like to work with what you know
Mm-hmm.
and sort of that range. So I probably would have to probably deal with the church since I'm like kind of connected to that world in a way, or have been for a long time growing up.
Is that because you want to deal in that world or you feel obligated because you feel like you know that world and you got to deal with what you know?
Because I want to deal with that world. I don't feel
Okay,
like
good.
obligation.
Okay,
Uh,
good. Good
and there's
answer.
a lot of stuff that goes on, you know, in the church that needs needs to be rectified and it needs to be corrected.
Okay. Like
Um,
corruption kind of thing or
yeah, corruption, abuse, and
like scandals.
abuse of power,
Okay.
money laundering. And I mean, it's just like there's so much. Probably something about church because I can talk like for days
Okay.
about that. And
Does that excite you? Like, does making a documentary about that, like, are you getting excited thinking about it or does that just sound like a lot of work?
no, I'm getting excited about it. I thought about something about it the other day, and I was kind of excited about it, and I know I have the resources to do it because there's so many people I can talk to that who were involved in the church who are not involved in the church anymore.
So just to rephrase then, so if you could be doing one thing with film and be successful at it right now or in the future, it would be doing documentaries and probably also some fiction about social justice topics where you would be your own boss, you get to travel, and probably the first one you would do would be about kind of exposing a lot of the corruption in the churches that are harming people that not everybody realizes, and that's a big passion that you have right now, and that would pump you up to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So how long does it take most people to make a documentary? I have no idea. Is it like a year-long
I made
process
one
or
in like a semester, so it's like a couple of months. It depends on how much resources you have to do
so
it. Like,
so what would be a timeline that's like ambitious and freaks you out a little bit, yet also like doable? Like, yeah, that would be within the realm of possibility if I did that.
on this scale, since it's so broad, probably like a year or so.
Okay. Okay. But it takes
Are you
most
talking
people.
about like completion, like completed, or just started?
No, completing.
Completed, like it's done,
Mm-hmm.
color correction and all that.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, like a year.
Okay. How long does it normally take people to do these things?
Um, the research and everything goes into it, and you gotta like
Is
make
that a
sure.
common amount of time? Like a year is normal?
Yeah, we did one that was about maybe about 6 months or 8 months.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. If a year is what you're thinking, I'm thinking you make a goal for 8 months. There's a great line by Brian Tracy. My clients hear me say this all the time, which is there's no such thing as unrealistic goals, only unrealistic timelines. So if you don't make that 8-month deadline, you can always push it back. It's not the end of the world. But if 12 months is what you're thinking, I think you need something that freaks you out a little more. So I'm going to look at the calendar and see 8 months. So August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Let's say I want you to write this down, okay?
Yeah.
I complete my first full documentary film.
It's gonna be a short documentary film.
Or it's okay, short documentary, my whatever type of however you would call it. Just say my first documentary film, I guess. Doesn't need to be like a 10-hour thing. By April 9th, 2023. And then sign your name. Got it?
Uh-huh.
So just to walk us back, do you see the process we just went through there? Because you can do this process on your own with all the areas of your life, and you can continue to do this in this area too. So we started by isolating all the variables. So a lot of times there's all these variables yanking us all these different directions. We just wanted to know, everything else being equal, what you wanted to happen. And then we learned, okay, you'd want to be doing documentary films. We're like, perfect. Well, that's really good, but not specific enough, right? And then we pick an issue, and then it's like, okay, a project. And then by when would that project need to be done? Like, how would we do that? So now, we don't have to do all this on this call, obviously, but, start to think about almost like a laundry list, right? Or like a cooking recipe, what all the things you would need to do to hit that deadline and make a documentary film. And then what should you start doing now that would get that process rolling, right? So I think that's a good spot. We can hop over to Jeff, but you can do this in all areas of your life. Isolate out the variables, everything else being equal. If you're making the same amount of money, same amount of success, guaranteed to be successful, had the skill sets, had the resources, that allowed you to kind of be like, oh, okay, well, if it was all that, I would want this. That was good. Then we made it narrower, then we made specific, then we put a date on it and a written goal. So do you see how it's almost like snatching something out of the air, you know? And you see how now it's clear enough that your mind is sort of like, okay, I get it. Like I get what that means.
Yeah.
It's cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so yeah, now that your next steps would just be thinking about, okay, well, you know, what are all the things that would need to happen for that to happen? And then chipping away at it, and you know, just taking little steps and just slowly knocking things out. So we'll come back to you if you have time. Jeff, let's hop over to you.
Sorry, it was a bunch of questions asked. So where to
Okay,
start?
what's that?
I said where to start.
Where to start? Start at the top, man. Start from the
Top,
beginning.
the top, the beginning for me.
or
I think you
wherever.
asked honestly. I think last we spoke, just based off the questions that I remember you asking at first. Last we spoke, you know, I was just transitioning from the military um, to civilian life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like the civilian life too much. I don't know. There's no structure. You
Yeah.
know, it's not for everybody. I mean, it is what it is. But overall, you know, my goal and my plan was to go back in service. Um, and when I say service, more so government service. Didn't matter where at.
Yeah.
Ultimately, fly planes. I either wanted helos, big birds, you know, C-130s, 757, 777s, or just for kicks and giggles. You know, I'll fly jets. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's as much as I can remember for the set of questions that you asked at first.
Okay. So what questions do you have for me about where you're feeling stuck now, where your frustrations are, maybe not sure what to do next in certain situations, or things you're trying to figure out, whatever is on your mind.
Um, it's really not too many like I guess questions. It's just more so I guess frustrations.
Okay. Like what?
And my main frustration is the unknown. You know,
Of what?
uh, just kind of navigating through civilian life. Civilian life is completely different from military. Just being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I said, there's no structure. You know, there's 30 ways to do one different thing, and you know, depending on who you're speaking with or who you're talking to. Um, one second.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, I had an incoming call.
Oh, okay.
Um, like I said, depending on who you're talking to, they can think, you know, number 13 out of 30 is the only way to do it. And if you rebuttal, then it's wrong. And, you know, that's it. You know, that opportunity is kind of hit a stopping point.
So give me some more specifics so I know what you mean. Like what exactly are you talking about, and who are you like? So you're talking about a certain thing in civilian life, and then there's people who have certain opinions on that thing. So what is the thing, and then who are the people with the opinions on it?
All right, perfect example.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, you know, being in spec ops or military, it's different. There's a set way to do things. There's like unspoken rules on how to do things within our community and just within the military period. And if there's any confusion, you know, we can always revert back to the book.
Yeah,
Does
yeah.
that make sense?
The manual.
Yeah. Um, I got out, and around the time that I met you, I was supposed to be working for Orlando Fire. So Fire Station One, downtown Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
I had a handshake deal because I had all the credentials. I had time in service, and I had been doing my job, which I was going to be doing the exact same thing for Orlando Fire.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I went in for my interview, I guess the official interview, um, and like maybe a week later, the chief of the fire department, he said, "Hey, I'm retiring. So and so is going to take over." When so and so took over, he was like, "I don't care who you know, how you got here, but you haven't served any time on the force.
Hmm.
So I don't care how you've been doing your job before this, but this is how we do it here." Mind you, he had never met me.
Hmm.
So that opportunity of me working for Orlando Fire, dealing with the things that I was dealing with before and doing the exact same job that I would be doing at Orlando Fire, that opportunity became null and void at that point. It became a huge fork in the road for me. And I guess a blocking point was the new chief of fire.
Okay.
Like I said, that made money tight. That made, living arrangements, I guess, different. Only because I was going in looking to make $100,000 a year. And then out of nowhere, it's just like, hey, $100,000 a year is zero with us because you don't work for us. You have to go through the proper channels and do things by the book. Even though you have all the credentials that we're looking for, you've been doing this job that you're getting hired for longer than half the people here. This is how we do things now. So, I mean, like I said, that was one of those stops, forks in the road where I had to kind of make a decision to go down a different path.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay. That
Don't get me
happens.
wrong. Like I said, that that put a hold to everything. I use my post 9/11 or my GI Bill to go to school. I want kids, as you know, buying a house with 4 or 5 rooms. You want to fill it up. It's not like you want to fill it up with your stuff,
Yeah.
At least not every room with your stuff. It's just like, why accumulate things when you can accumulate a family? Makes sense?
Hmm.
Um, some people want kids, some people don't. But for me, I just wanted children, and I don't want my children to have to, fight for everything and kind of go through.
Within walking distance.
That that was definitely, I guess, a pinching point for me, and that was really it. So paying for school, I was gonna work for Orlando Fire and pay for school. I was also gonna work for Orlando Fire, pay for my house and everything else, and smooth sailing. But that's not how things panned out. So that created a huge fork, or I guess that roadblock that I've been speaking of.
How recent was that?
When did I meet you?
A
2019.
long time ago.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. Over the course of meeting you to now, obviously I bought a house, and I've been able to, excuse me, work for Volusia instead, as Volusia bomb tech. But hey, be working for Volusia, and I stay way out here where I met you. It's just kind of different. I've also been able to go to school, so things pan out. God never puts you in a position that He can't take you out of it.
Yeah.
And that's just really where I'm at with it. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest forks in a row. It was either, hey, should I go back in service, like right now at this moment, because things didn't pan out the way I wanted it to, or should I continue down this road of success? Like you said earlier, success doesn't have, I guess, a ceiling. It's more so an unattainable timeline. So don't get me wrong. The mission has always been the same. It just took me a little bit longer to get there than I anticipated.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
But even still, like, my goal has been 3 years. Haven't reached 3 years yet. So my goal was 3 years. I set myself to attain the goal in like 2 years and 5 months. Just for kicks and giggles. I said 6 months. That's cliche. I'm gonna do 2 years, 5 months.
Yeah.
And so far, I'm right on track. But even still, I had an extra 4 months. So really, I'm getting everything accomplished in 2 years, 9 months.
Okay.
Currently, I addressed earlier, Secret Service, they sent me an offer letter. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Secret Service sent me an offer letter. Truth be told, it's not exactly where I want to go.
Okay.
As I've been stating since I met you, I always wanted to fly.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
since being here, I attained my private pilot license, and I'm hoping to get my commission in either the Air Force or back into the Navy. That way they can play for flight school. That's an
Okay.
easy job. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be an easy day every day, but the only easy day was yesterday because each day brings new challenges. Though the challenges are unknown for the most part, you still figure out a way to make it happen, especially if you want it to happen.
Okay. So
Um,
was if sounds like you're offered the Secret Service. I remember you were talking about maybe doing the FBI also, but
yeah,
what you really want to do is go into the Air Force.
no, honestly, overall, what I want to do is I really just want to fly. Doesn't matter who I fly for. I can fly for JetBlue.
So commercial, you want to fly commercial?
Honestly, I'm thinking commercial after retirement.
Okay.
Um,
So you want to fly for the military?
Yeah, so either fly for the military or the government, FBI, CIA, NCIS, doesn't matter, but they all do a buyback program. So my time in service wouldn't be technically in vain. They buy back the years that I've already spent in service.
Okay.
So that will accumulate to my retirement. Excuse me. That would accumulate and accrue into my retirement. And then once that finishes, honestly, seeing that I would have those flight hours and with most of the credentials still intact, as a pilot, I can always say, hey, I want to fly for a commercial jetliner now.
Okay.
So now I have one retirement, and then I'll pick up another job so I can apply for 2 retirements at the point. Make sense?
Yeah. So is there what would be the ideal flight situation? So we know you want to fly. Do you have a preference of like FBI, CIA, Air Force? You said you want to do commercial after you retire, but what about right now? Like if everything was perfect and you could fly in whatever context you wanted to, what would that look like?
Flying whatever context I wanted to. Honestly,
Yeah.
Personally, I think I would, instead of going active duty in the military, I would go as a reservist.
Okay.
And truthfully, it doesn't matter which branch, flying is flying unless you go to the Army and they fly like honeybees, They always, for real, they fly always in a hive,
Okay.
And if you've ever seen like Army helicopter pilots fly, it's always in a hive formation. Like unless they break off, then they're still in somewhat of a hive, but it's an organized hive.
Okay.
I would definitely go, like I said, reservist in the military.
Okay.
Doesn't matter which branch. And then a government agency, they would really have no choice but to pick me up as a pilot, seeing
Okay.
that I have military experience prior and current. And
Do
then,
you
like I said,
want to fly for a government agency? Like is that what you really want to be doing, but you feel like you have to do it in the military first? Is that what you're saying?
no, it's not. It's not. I feel like I have to do the military first. I feel like more so like I never really want to leave the military. I got out just to kind of earn my degree. That way I could fly because I can't fly without my degree.
Okay.
But picking up that time, from the military, even if I go reservist, as a reservist, going through the ranks as an officer, by the time I retire, that's about 55, maybe 65 grand a month, just off of retirement.
Damn.
And that's
not
as a
bad.
reservist.
That's awesome.
So 5,500, 6,500 bucks a month, just off of retirement check.
Oh, I
that's
thought
20 years.
I thought you said 55,000 or 65,000 a month. I'm like, damn, that's a big retirement.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was like, man, I'm in the wrong career. I'm sorry. Continue. Oh,
Nah,
so
you're good.
so then is there, so you have this offer or sort of offer, you know, on the table, um, but you really want to be reserve and fly for the military. Is there any reason why you can't do that? Like, is there anything that stops you from putting in those applications and making that happen? Flying for the military?
Uh, no, so it's not. Honestly, I haven't applied for graduation yet. So
Okay.
I got my first degree from UCF this past semester. So I
Okay.
just graduated. Well, technically, I just graduated, but I didn't graduate. I just finished this the summer term.
Okay.
So I got emergency and crisis management from UCF, but I'm simultaneously taking a bachelor's in business and organizational leadership. That
Okay.
way, I can have a stronger backbone and foundation of how to lead people and not how to lead a business. Make sense?
Yeah. So are you saying that you like need to finish a bachelor's degree before you go do that because they need to see a bachelor's degree for you to fly? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So ultimately, they do.
Okay.
But
Got it.
seeing that I just finished one bachelor's degree, I'll finish the bachelor's from Valencia in the spring, and that way I have a dual bachelor's degree.
This
They
spring.
call it, yeah, this so 2023.
Okay. Okay.
So 23, I'll graduate in the spring, um, and I'm actually going to apply for UCF's graduation at that point as well. I'm
Okay.
already finished, just going to apply for graduation.
Okay.
Um, but once I do that, then most definitely, um, the agencies like the FBI, they require a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
CIA bachelor's degree, military, especially becoming an officer, they require a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
And
So
these are
you
the
have
minimum
to
requirements.
so you have to have that, and what you're saying is that you would like to finish the second bachelor's degree because that's important for you before
Yeah,
you. Okay.
before I
So
just pursue everything else.
okay. I mean, that sounds like a good plan to me. Is there any places that you any questions that you have? I mean, the plan sounds good. Is there anything that has you stuck right now? I've got like maybe a couple more minutes, but I agree with everything you said. You know, I think you've given it a lot of thought, and I think it makes sense.
Yeah, not really too many questions. Like I said, just certain stressors. Um, Me being the explosives tech that I was, or technically I am, because I still am an explosive tech for Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
But in the military, being an explosive technician, came with injuries, came with everything else. And now I've got these things fixed, there's always a possibility for me to be seated um, and become, not necessarily a pilot, but maybe a different type of officer because of my injuries that I sustained in the military already.
Okay.
So, I mean, every other, I guess, agency doesn't really care. FBI, they're okay with it. CIA, NCIS, they're perfectly fine with it. Just the military has a lot stricter guidelines.
I mean, it sounds like you've got things set up that you're gonna fly and you're gonna do it
Regardless.
soon. Yeah, regardless, and it's gonna be soon. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, it's your situation sounds pretty good to me. I mean, the one thing that I can, well, maybe a couple final thoughts that I can leave you with that might help, because I know, like you say, you don't really have questions per se, but more like stressors. Um, I think there's a great line by Jim Rohn where he talks about life is always going to be opportunity mixed with difficulty, right? So when that thing happened with the fire station, there was difficulty, and at that time of life there's opportunity, and right now there's difficulty and there's opportunity. When you get your bachelor's and you go start flying wherever you fly, there's going to be opportunity and there's going to be difficulty. And Phil, this is for you too. So you know I would say, and you probably do this already because you're military and you've seen plenty of difficulty probably through the military already, but kind of just expecting, like, because we were talking about civilian life and you said civilian life's kind of different, but I would imagine in a lot of ways it's still similar to the military in the sense that you can expect that bad things are going to happen in civilian life also, and there's going to be things that you can't control in civilian life, and there's going to be assholes in civilian life and probably in the military too, and there's going to be people that like you and don't like you, and that's probably true in the military too, and there's going to be things that seem more reasonable and less reasonable. I know with the military there's the manual, so it's a little more like literal, but just see everything in life as opportunity mixed with difficulty. When the difficulty comes, don't be too surprised by it. Just kind of be like, oh, of course, of course there's difficulty right now. That's how life goes, opportunity mixed with difficulty. And then, just trying to maximize the time you spend focusing on what you can control. It's very easy for our focus to sort of go off on like the things that we can't control, which it sounds like sort of happened to you in the fire situation, where it was
Yeah.
like, oh man, what the heck? But I think the really successful people, and of course I'm a work in progress too, I think they're really good at kind of minimizing the time they're spending focusing on something they can't control. And they're pretty quick to be like, okay, what's the answer? What's the answer right now? What's the solution? What am I doing about it? So, those things already, but I think those are good little tidbits to think about throughout your day. Is whatever's going on, good or bad, it's like, okay, opportunity mixed with difficulty. I expected that, so it's not such a surprise when things go badly, because, you can expect it. Life, things will go badly,
True.
And then just shifting your control. So if you can get even just a little bit faster throughout your day, going from noticing that your focus is going this way back to whatever this solution oriented way is, that can still save you a lot of stress and anxiety and increase the performance of whatever task or work you're working on. So just little tidbits. Got about 2 minute warning. Any closing words from you guys? At least on my end, it's really a pleasure to see you guys again, and to see that both of you guys basically have massively executed on things we talked about like 2 years ago, which is really cool for me to see. Of course, if either of you guys are interested now or later in one-on-one coaching, I'd be happy to talk with you more. Feel free to message me if you like. But do you guys have any final questions for me, or any final thoughts in the 1 or 2 minutes that we've got?
Just one. So
Yes.
I know you said with our situations between Phil and I, even with yourself and other people who may be listening, it's not only, I guess, difficulty mixed with opportunity, but it's more so opportunity mixed with preparation. If you make those preparations for that opportunity, everything will come to you.
Yeah,
But
I
if
like
you
that.
never make that stride into getting to where you want to be in life, then nothing will ever come to you. You're always going to have those opportunities that are missed or that are not afforded to you because you're not ready for what's to come.
I like that. I like that. It's like there's going to be a lot of opportunity, but if there's no preparation, the opportunity didn't matter because you missed it regardless. So
Exactly.
yeah, I like that a lot. I like that. Phil, any final questions or thoughts or wisdom like Jeff just brought to us, which I really like that. I think that's an extremely good point.
I mean, just to bounce off that, you have to have like faith. Faith is like motion to believing that whatever you believe in is going to happen. I mean, if you don't have faith and if you don't act on it, then it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
Faith
that. And
is
that's
like stepping out into like believing. It's like even when you don't believe in yourself, you still got to believe that it's going to happen.
yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. And that's tying back to the church example, the good part of the church, not the bad parts. and that's something I think we're all doing, like Jeff, you're going for flying, which you've always wanted to do, and you can't see it in your reality physically yet, but you can see it in your head, and Phil, for you, you can see, at least to some degree, the film stuff and the documentary stuff in your head. And same for me with the stuff I'm doing. I think you guys know, or maybe you don't know, but when I left KB home, I really had no plan, which is not a good idea. I don't recommend that people do what I did, but I didn't know exactly how things were going to look. I just knew that I wanted to help people to build the lives they actually wanted to be living, because I felt like most people weren't. And I felt like it was something I could help with, and never had heard of life coaching before. I didn't know it was a thing. I just felt like I wanted to help people do something like this, and kind of figured out this is what it was and kind of went from there. So definitely I agree that, we have to have something in our head in the internal world before it can be in the external world. There's nothing out here in our world that wasn't first in our head. And that's true for the good things and the bad things, unfortunately. We have to take that hard look in the mirror and be like, for the things that aren't going better, we sort of have to face that uncomfortable truth that, we saw that failure in our head first, so true for the good and the bad, and needing to make sure that we're really putting all of our focus to the good. And like Jeff said, I mean, each of us every day probably have lots of opportunities that we just haven't executed because the preparation wasn't what it should have been, you know, like Jeff said. And I think it's really, really, really true. Sometimes we talk so much about mindset and not enough about like action and preparation and strategy and planning and like these more like literal things. And without that stuff, that preparation, that's enough to throw everything off. You could have a great mindset, but if you don't have any preparation, you're going to be in trouble. So awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. It's a pleasure. I'll text you this video when I'm posting it, when it's on YouTube, which should be soon. And yeah, it's great catching up, and talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, man.
Cool.
Peace.
All right, guys. Peace.
All right.